God says he is. If you want to turn there in Job chapter 40, and we're going to pick it up in verse 8 tonight, Job 40, verse number 8. So, he's talking with his friends in between, and he's also talking with some other folks that happen to come into the picture. But I want to focus in on the things that God tells him. So he says tonight, would you discredit my justice? Would you condemn me to justify yourself? And in verse 9 it says, do you have an arm like God's? Can your voice thunder like this? Then adorn yourself with glory and splendor, and clothe yourself in honor and majesty. Verse number 11 says, unleash the fury of your wrath. Look at all who are proud and bring them low. Look at all who are proud and humble them. Crush the wicked where they stand. Verse number 13, bury them in the dust together. Shroud their faces in the grave. And then verse number 14 says, then I myself will admit to you that your own right hand can save you. And so real quick, I want to look back at the word shroud. And I found out that this means to actually cover something. So I think of like perhaps when somebody's in a grave and there's like dirt, and I'm not trying to be morbid, but like dirt, weeds and stuff, and things begin to cover them. So something covers their face completely, right? And verse number 14 it says, then I myself will admit to you that your own right hand can save you. And hopefully in this place tonight, maybe you haven't got off track. If you haven't, that's a great thing. Stay on track. But tonight, if you have, it's funny because it's like God starts up here. You get somewhere off track. God starts to come down. So eventually, it's like a sinner. Now you and God are like equals. And then you're like, well, God keeps going further down. You see what I'm saying? And pretty soon we have the potential to elevate ourselves. And the scary thing about this, as I thought about it, was that, well, wait a second. The Bible also said, and I don't have this, but the Bible also said that next to God, Lucifer was like the most beautiful, if I'm saying that right, which I think I am tonight. But he let these thoughts start to what? He let them start to go in his head. Well, maybe I'll just overthrow God, maybe I'll become God. Well, tonight, unfortunately, that's a scary place to be, and we all know that supposedly a third of the angels also left and, went down with the devil. But I want to look at an interesting creature in the story tonight, and that creature is Leviathan, or Leviathan, some people say. And in Psalm 74, verse 14, it says, it was you that crushed the heads of the Leviathan and gave it its food to the creatures of the desert. And Psalms 104, verse 26, it says, there are ships that go to and fro in Leviathan, which formed a frolic there. And then lastly, in Isaiah 27:1, it says, in that day the Lord will punish with his sword, his fierce, great, and powerful sword, Leviathan the gliding serpent. Leviathan the coaling serpent will slay the monster of the sea. So here, we picture him as something different. And I went to Disney one year, 2013, I think it was 13, maybe, I don't know, give or take. But so you see like one of these sea dragons, and it's very interesting to me because he's actually partially out of order. You have the head, right, and then there's like a little middle section, and you just keep seeing like images until it gets all the way to the tail. So then I thought to myself, well, if that's true, I wonder if somebody like Hercules, who watched Hercules before? Kevin Sorbo, yeah, maybe you did in the back. Anyways, Kevin Sorbo is like aspired to be like him. I'm like, man, you see how jacked this dude is? Like, let's hit the gym. And I still need to hit the gym too. But tonight, my point is that I think about this guy and like all these hydras and all these different kinds of dragons and like, oh, he's always got to do something before he gets to where he's going tonight. And I thought about like his buddy too, and then like, I like to picture myself in stories. I'll put me there and kick his buddy to the curb somewhere. But tonight in Job 41, God goes on to say in verse 1, can you pull Leviathan with a fish hook, or tie down its tongue with a rope? Can you put a cord through its nose, or pierce its jaw with a hook? Will it keep begging you for mercy? Will it speak to you with gentle words? Will it make an agreement with you for you to take it as your slave for life? Can you make a pet of it like a bird? Or put it on a leash for the young women in your house. Will traders barter for it? Will they divide it up among the merchants? Can you fill its hide with harpoons or its head with fishing spears? Verse number 8. If you only lay a hand on it, you'll remember the struggle and never do it again. Any hope of subduing it is false. The mere sight of it is overpowering. No one is fierce enough to rouse it. Who then is able to stand against me? And I think, what God's trying to relate to him here is, there's no mortal man that dares to try and touch this thing. And tonight, I'm thinking, okay, if it was a sea serpent, maybe it was a dragon, maybe it was a hydra. I don't know. But that's not even the point of this tonight. The point is tonight that whatever this was not meant to be tamed by these tiny little human hands. Because he said back in the verses here, you'd remember the struggle if you did. And I think so too. I'm not that old, but what I'm saying tonight is that, The Hobbit was like an animated series, right? And then it went on to be like live action, The Lord of the Rings, and I think maybe 3 or 4 movies are made out of it. Well, 2 things stuck out. The one thing that stuck out to me was the voice of John Huston, because that was like Morgan Freeman, I guess, back in the 70s or something. And the other thing that stuck out was the dragon, and the dragon was supposed to be, quote-unquote, all-powerful, if you will. But the funny thing was about this dragon, even though he was in armor and stuff to him, there was one tiny little hole in this, and I don't have a picture to show you, but in this dragon. And so the bird comes to the man, and he's like, hey, you know what? I got a message for you. And he's like, oh, okay, cool, And the bird's like, why don't you look at his chest? He's like, there's something up there. And he was like one of those guys that with an arrow. And he goes to shoot the arrows, and everybody's missing, and they try to do all these things to this guy. But my point is tonight, he saw the sweet spot, you see? And when he hit that weak spot, this creature had no choice but to hit the ground later on. And then they said, well, how did you find out about it? Well, a bird came, and a bird actually had told the gentleman that, hey, look, there's a weakness here tonight. And can I just say that, there's a weakness in our lives tonight. And what I mean is there's a pull on the world, and you guys can feel it. Let's be real. I mean, I'll use Kayla for an example. Yeah, and so what I'm saying is she goes to school, okay, guys, and pray for these folks, because the thing is they're so confused in life about where they are. They're so held down, and we pray in the prayer room, which is important to do, but we say things like, God, we come against this strong man right now and all this stuff like this, because those kids, they're getting told stuff like their parents, the world's maybe not so nice or whatever, yada, yada, yada. But then it's like, okay, but you've got 2 fathers. And the reason why I bring that up is tonight, they're already confused in the beginning. You have 2 fathers. Mom's long gone. Who knows where she is? But then on top of that, you're trying to tell your child to perceive things a certain way, but you've already, Adam and Eve, guys, I don't think it was ever Adam and Steve, if you follow me tonight. And so going back to Leviathan, though, real quick. So scholars who see themselves as realists and maybe a little more skittish around the explanations of the Leviathan as a dragon or a fire-breathing sea serpent have suggested maybe he was a crocodile. I don't know. Maybe he was. And that the fire-breathing language in Job served as a hyperbole or a metaphor in literary terms. But no matter what this case is, the Bible presents this creature to illustrate God's strength. And similar to Israel's enemies, Leviathan posed a massive threat. And Israel and all humanity with it alone could not subdue it. But as mentioned in the verses above, only God can wield control over such a powerful beast. And tonight, I'm not here by any means to say that I'm a pastor or that I'm taking his place, because I'm definitely not. But I do know this, that when you have a willingness to do something, you will see that whatever that thing is done in your life. If it's a willingness. Now again, guys, keep in mind, keeping the proper perspective about willingness. Because if you're willing to do bad things, and I won't even go into that tonight because that's not part of this tonight, that can also have an opposing effect. But tonight, if you're willing to do the right things in Jesus Christ, he's able to excel our lives. And I don't feel like, that the stuff that has been happening lately is all for nothing. I mean, for example, and I probably should have lifted him up in prayer here as well on the list, but 58 people come through the escape room. Out of those 58 people, 10 people get saved. Now, they might not be here saved tonight, so I was like, okay, man, where's those people? But then I thought, you know what? Stop. Slow down, dude. Because I realized that even those people who maybe didn't perceive that, I thought they heard what I was saying, they did hear what I was saying. And see, the thing is that later on down the road, those people were able to connect the dots. I went back there to that place and that guy, and maybe if I go back now, you see. And so, a lot of times it's how they're received, and, I just want to encourage you to pray for those folks. But going back to who